Hello, everyone. My name is Ferrah, and welcome to Wild Women Wednesdays. I am here with my co-host,
I am
Dr.
Laura.
Viva. Hey, Laura. Thanks for being here as we talk about Gremlins. Did you ever watch the old the movie back in was it the early '90s with the little Gremlins?
Oh,
And
I
then
think
if you like,
it's older than that.
is
80s.
it '80s?
80s
And
thing.
they got when they got water on them, they would turn into like little evil gremlins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Total aside, I just thought of this when I thought of Gremlins and how wild they were. I used to really like that movie though. I felt like it was really good because they were so cute when they were innocent, and then they would turn so psycho crazy. And I think that that's very similar to the Gremlins that we're going to be talking about today. You think that they're nice, but in actuality, they're evil.
They're sweet and they're sour.
So Gremlins, for those of you, we are not talking about the movie. We are actually talking about a phrase that was at first introduced to me by Elisa Romeo, who is a fabulous psychologist based out of Vashon Island, actually, or no, Bainbridge Island. I knew it was over in the same ones, and she is really a specialist on soul connection and soul journaling. And she incorporates that into her therapy practice. I've met with her a few times. And she's an intuitive, and she just has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the spiritual realm, as well as the very practical application of therapy. And she describes gremlins as these really fear mongering of our minds, the thoughts and phrases that we repeat subconsciously or consciously to really disconnect us from our most authentic and true essence, and really leaves us in a place of feeling disjointed and disempowered in our lives and what we're doing. And being able to identify them gives us the opportunity to be able to distinguish between our soul's voice, our kind of our inner wisdom, our Atman, as they say within the yogic practice, and our ego, or sometimes that itty bitty shitty committee, as my friend Audrey likes to call it, or our inner critic, that is often described in many books and types of therapy practice. So today we're going to go in and we're actually going to talk about this. We're going to journal about it, and then we're going to kind of parse through all of that as an opportunity to be able to hopefully recognize these gremlins when they come up. And as Laura was mentioning, poke them with our unicorn holes and tell them to get the hell away.
That's really super out of context, but we'll circle back, right? Like we'll
circle back
where we got that unicorn.
Yes, as just you wait, we'll dive into all of it and more as we explore it. But I actually wanted to start off by really talking about what the gremlins are. And I kind of touched on this already, and I also have learned about this from years ago with Brené Brown, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. And she talks about our shitty first draft. So she always says, the story I'm making up in my head is, and more often than not, it's about a scenario or a situation with an individual or a conversation that we have. And she always goes, let's circle back to this, because I think sometimes we can make up stories or thoughts or impressions about how we feel like the other person's viewing us, or even how they perceived what we've said or the situation. And then shining light on it and really, talking about it and bringing it up in a very honest way, and in an honest way for ourselves of maybe what shitty feelings came up, can be an opportunity to get to the truth of the matter, instead of letting this fabrication of what we believe might be true to circulate and to run rampant, even if there's no truth actually in fact related to it. Laura, do you see this come up in your own life? I know I do it all of the time, and literally I used to say in my own marriage, I was big, the story I'm making up in my head is this. Is this true, or am I making this up? Can we talk about it? Do you do this at all, or how does this show up for you?
Yeah, I definitely think we all do it. What rang more true when you just asked that was an employee set, to be too
Mm,
honest, is that to see it so frequently with people who come with a complaint or their experience to HR. Like, it's like, okay, this is the story you're telling yourself, and
mm,
really the way that can just eat people alive with
yeah.
not being able to recognize, like, this is a story I'm telling myself. Because you'll get complaints or people who are damn determined that they've been slighted, and it really is. I mean, that sounds almost like gaslighting, but it is the story that they're telling themselves about what happened and putting value on things. So, it's
Mhm.
definitely a way to gaslight yourself too, of like, is this happening, or is this just the story I'm telling myself about what is happening? And really being able to recognize, like, what is that, like, what's real and what's not real.
Mhm. And that's why I love Brené's approach to this, because she would say, write it out, write
Mm.
your shitty first draft, as she used to call it, and then really be able to identify where is the truth, because there's probably some truth to it. There's facts that come along with any story, that we were in a certain place and certain words were said. But then it's like, what value are we placing on them? How are we spending that? And how are we integrating that into our own self-worth and application? And where might that be magnifying some of our own insecurities, where maybe that wasn't even intended to be so. And I know that I even now can recognize when I do it to other people and I'm like, I said this and they probably think I meant this, but I didn't mean that. And then I'm like, sometimes I'll address it and be like, hey, I just said this. And like, I know that you might be thinking I'm referring to this situation, because like, I know this just happened to you. And this probably seems like I'm trying to like poke a finger at you, but I'm actually not. It just like streamed out of a word vomit out of my mouth. But being able to talk about it and then make almost apply humor to it is like my personal way to like kind of like correct it. And so then hopefully no one carries it on with them, because this is, like you said, can eat people alive for years on end. And it's when in actuality there was no, like, there should have been no weight placed onto it. And like you said, it could be gaslighting, but then sometimes it is like, can we let it go in order to um lighten our load of the conversations and even thoughts on ourselves as we view ourselves. So instead of oh man, you guys, Laura and I've already been talking for like an hour before this about all of these things. We've just been chilling, just diving into the work, diving into the shadows of ourselves and the world around us, and all of these societal pressures that get placed on especially women, I think, in particular. But today, instead of talking about interactions with other people, and I think it can still be applied just as realistically and um, in I think it would contribute leaps and bounds, just being able to identify when we're making up these stories within our relationships. But we're going to talk and focus on the gremlins that we make up about ourselves, the limiting beliefs that we may possess about our who we are and our capabilities, and maybe even within what we're creating within our lives. So our gremlins, they come up, and I think often more than not, they are meant as a way to protect ourselves, to shield ourselves from hurt and pain. I think that there's a positive intention for why they are created and why they hold such weight within our lives. But in actuality, they're more often than not just holding us back. They are preventing us from being the truest and most authentic version of ourselves because of the fears that can drum up and being that vulnerable with the world around us and with our people we care about. And even within our career paths and where we want to take it, these thoughts that we will fail or that we will never be who we know that we're meant to. And I think that that's when I started really touching on it, was like, how is this hindering me? How are these subconscious beliefs hindering me from being who I know I'm meant to be? What do you, what, go ahead and what?
Yeah. So this is all out of the book, Meet Your Soul, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
you shared the pages with me, and something that really resonated with that aspect is that it's sometimes it might not even be that detrimental, but they're also there to, like, keep you small. or
Mm,
you
mhm.
complacent, and in line. So, that's definitely some societal pressure, some, definite patriarchy uh, issues. But that to me was more, um, it rang truer to the like, play small, like keep yourself small, like don't do too much, don't think you're too, capable of more, and that was even, to me, what really stood out with the pages specifically about like identifying your gremlins is,
Yeah.
they're juxtaposed in that chapter with, people who have addiction issues, but there's levels that this comes out for all types of humans.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I'm happy that you pointed that out because I think that there is an opportunity to, this is deep shadow work. We all have our shadows, we all have our demons, we all have that voice in our head that is telling us, that's keeping us in the same position that we're in now. And that could be in the depths of depression, it could be in the depths of an addiction, or even in just simply not being able to like truly step into the light and be that fullest expression, in whatever way. So I think this can get applied in different positions and in different periods of our life in so many different capacities. But they still, I think, ring true and um, have quite an impact if we want to believe it or not, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to do a grounding meditation to start as just an opportunity to anchor, and to kind of root into ourselves and to hopefully be able to approach this from a place of compassion and security instead of almost allowing that fear to bubble up to the surface even more, because this can be very triggering, I think, for most people. And I know it was for me when I initially did this. I know we went through it together, and even then, there's still these little pings of like, ugh, that kind of gross feeling that comes over when I hear these thoughts. I know, deep down that they're not true, but then there is I can't help but sometimes fall into the belief that they are. So, all right, we'll go ahead and begin by finding a comfortable seat. And making sure that both feet are placed onto the ground. This is a grounding meditation. Elisa also goes through this grounding meditation within the book, Meet Your Soul. I've done a couple sessions with her. She also leads them. You can find this on her website for free as well. And it's just a really great exercise. If you want to do any type of journaling exercise or even just like a morning meditation to help ground you before you start your day. I'm taking my own version of it, so I'm modifying this slightly. P.S. By the way, Alyssa, if you ever listen to this, that is the case, but appreciate you and the inspiration for it. Okay, go ahead and close your eyes. Oh, word vomit. Speaking of word vomit, go ahead and lengthen through the crown of your head. Find a strength within your core as you draw your navel up and in, supporting your spine. Bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Inflating through your rib cage, through your all the way into your heart space, into your collarbones. Open mouth, exhale, let it go. Big breath in. Cleansing breath out. One more time together, breathe in and release. Feel a heaviness within your pelvis. Let that weight travel through your quads, into your knees, into the heels of your feet. And imagine roots growing from your feet into the ground beneath you. And as those roots spread wide and deeper into the Earth's core, all the way down as far as you can imagine, maybe even hooking on to the molten lava that boils within our big green planet, hooking on as a way to anchor us into our bodies, into this moment, into our breath. Allow that heaviness to wash over our lower limbs and keeping it there from the base of our spine into the ground. If you're a visual person, you can imagine a bright red light starting to illuminate within our root chakra, which is located at the base of your spine. Surprise, surprise. And with each round of breath, let it shine brighter and brighter. Maintain that same amount of weight within our lower body. And then connect both palms to touch Anjali Mudra, your heart center. Rise up from our heart space to our third eye, the space between our eyebrows. And as we remain grounded within our feet, let our third eye open up to receive insight, to be able to shine light on our moments of weakness, our places where we might feel insecure or maybe even unsettled. And know that we are safe, that we are protected energetically, emotionally, and physically in the space that we've created for ourselves. Opening yourself up to receive knowledge and wisdom from deep within, pouring compassion from us from head to toe as we dive into this work. Inhale and exhale. Bring your hands back to your heart. Flutter your eyes open. And now let's really begin. Okay, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more settled. How do you feel, Laura?
Settled.
Good?
Yeah.
Do you meditate on a regular basis? Or do you do like visual meditations?
No.
Not normally. No. Oh, you reminded me of your mom right then. But I don't always like doing visuals because I don't know if they always ring true for me, but I can appreciate them and value them for the in the moments where I do them. I feel like they do kind of add an added element to the meditation. So hopefully you guys were able to also feel that, and we'll use that kind of rootedness in order to dive into this work so that we can hopefully be a little bit more vulnerable as we explore these topics. So the first, if you have a pen and paper, and if you don't have one, go ahead and grab it. The first question that we really want to ask ourselves, and maybe even going, yep, we'll do that one first. What am I beating myself up about? How am I comparing myself to others? And what do I judge myself from? And this is from the Gremlin chapter within Meet Your Soul. These are direct questions that she brought up and meeting your gremlin. And I think that it's an opportunity to really just free write be able to come up with things and stream of consciousness, just write them out without judgment or expectations for what you should be writing or how should I feel. Really eliminating that need to fit in a mold, and just seeing what comes up and hopefully not being afraid to write out those thoughts. Because I think sometimes what can be exposed in this journaling exercise can be really scary. And Laura, how was it for you when we went through this process?
Super uncomfortable.
Mhm.
As I think, the whole point of it is to uncover subconscious thoughts and gremlins that are eating away at things. So uh, to take them from subconscious to consciousness and to write them down is, it's gross just to be really undescriptive about it, but it's super uncomfortable.
Mhm. Yeah, it gives you that yuck factor of just like, oh God, like, do I really like, I know that there's truth to them because I know I wouldn't be writing them down if I didn't actually have some belief that these were real and that these like play a factor in my life. But it's very, yeah, it was uncomfortable to say the least. I've done a lot of, I practice shadow work on a regular basis. And I was like, I feel like I have some unconscious thoughts that I'm like not shining light on and I need to. And that's what actually prompted me to do this exercise. So then I just dove right into the shit of like what was going through my mind. And what were some things that came up for you, if you don't mind sharing? And I'm happy to share some of mine as well.
For the first question,
Yeah, or for any of them.
um, well, I think very broadly, an idealized self. So,
Mhm.
what do you think that idealized self is? What have you built it up to be? How are you not achieving
Mhm.
it? What, not so much why not, but how not, and a lot of comparison.
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I would agree. I think that, the next question of how am I so first question is what am I beating myself up about? And then the second is how am I comparing myself to others? And I think that those are often tied together. Because there is this instant, I'm beating myself up about this because I'm comparing myself to something else, someone else, or another life that I'm viewing from the outside looking in. And, I definitely was like, my big one right now is like, am I open to receive, and like I believe in abundance. I believe in that, like really not standing against the scarcity mindset and identifying it and countering it in all that I do. But then recognizing that, am I actually believing the hype a little bit of scarcity, that there is not enough to go around, if that's within my career or within my relationships? Like, is there this limiting mindset that or even within myself, am I not enough? And because of my lack, then my life also then there lacks these aspects of, abundance or of love. Am I not willing to take that in and receive what the universe has to offer me because I don't believe that I'm worthy to? And it all comes back, for me, it always comes back to worthiness. It's like, do I really truly believe that I am meant to receive these things in life? And do I deserve them? And am I placing prerequisites on myself in order for me to feel like I'm working up to some standard that I need to keep in order to receive them? Or can I allow them to naturally flow towards me, which is always what my goal is. But I
Mm.
think sometimes in our minds, we can create excuses for why that's not the case because of, subconscious thought pattern that we didn't even recognize was there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Are you like, I know one like comparison that I have is like, I'm not dating enough. Like, I'm not getting myself out there enough. I say that one very consciously. And I'm like, I know I'm not dating enough. I know I'm not trying as hard as I could be in this realm. And I just like almost admit it. But then it's like also, who am I comparing myself to? Like how often should I be doing this? How like what truth is there in that, you know? And like what is this quota that I'm supposedly supposed to be meeting that I'm not? Do you have one that you, or like, I'm not living my creative, I'm not living in a creative way. Like I'm not creative enough because I love to be creative. I love to find the beauty within life. And it's like embodying that and actually executing those kind of creative endeavors are something that I'm trying to do more of. Like I'm definitely trying to just like appreciate art and music a lot more and incorporate those into my life. It's funny because we were talking about this earlier too, but it's also something I actively do. And but then I'm like, I'm not doing it enough. It's always this not enoughness that keeps repeating for me in that loop.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one that I've experienced is like, okay, you're not inspired enough, or, not producing enough creative work. And that again, the idealized self of like, I want to be a creative person. I want to be producing material that's interesting and intriguing and people gravitate towards, and in the artistic way of revealing a truth. And it's like, instead I don't do anything. I don't like, that I don't try. They don't write anything at all, let alone a first draft, Brené.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's hard too. It's like, okay, those gremlins, it's like, okay, well, will already not be enough. It'll suck. So why bother trying? It won't be perfect. It's that perfectionist gremlin that says, if it's not perfect, straight away, like it's okay to be a beginner and approach things with a beginner's mind. But the gremlins don't want to have that, because then it's like that, that reality is so present when you're a beginner of not being good enough and being, not being perfect, because that's what being a beginner is all about. Developing skills, getting stronger, getting faster, getting there, building up. And
progression. Yeah.
So I think that's a huge gremlin for a lot of people, because they don't want to see that reality, because it's evidence there that you aren't good enough, because you're learning. Great. And maybe being a learner and giving yourself permission to do that is enough.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that is what often hinders us from ever really trying, so often, if that's in a career path, if that's something, even a hobby, sometimes we can like be too hard on ourselves to be like, well, if we're not like, some like mystical, like I know within yoga, like I was so terrified to start teaching because I was like, well, I'm gonna suck. And I was like, yeah, we're all gonna suck. Who was that? This just reminded me. Was it, oh God, it's the drummer. I think, was it the Red Hot Chili Peppers or the Foo Fighters? I think it was from the Foo Fighters. And it was the MTV Music Awards. And I'll never forget this. It just really stood out in my memory. And he was like, people don't suck anymore. And I was like so taken aback by his, like, it was an acceptance speech. And I was like, oh, wait, what are you talking? I love the Foo Fighters. So I was like, okay. And he's like, I was like, started a band when I was a little kid. And like, we were in my parents' garage and we sucked. We sounded like shit. And he was like, but we would play every day. We'd practice, we would do it, and we got better. And then we did a couple shows and we sucked and we got booed. And he was like, and then we got better. And then he's like, and then we like went to the next level, and we were like, we're on like doing a world tour, and like there were some shitty shows, but we got better. And now I'm here, and like people forget that I sucked for a long time before I got here. And it's like we have this expectation now, these instant stars, or these people that YouTube sensations that just blow up out of nowhere. And it's like, people got to suck for a while before they're really able to step into their true magic. The 10,000 hour rule, Macklemore has a song, 10,000 hours. It was like right before he really blew up. And he was like, I'm so damn close, I can taste it. And it was like, he recognized, and I think he was an underground rap star. I also love Macklemore. He was an underground hip hop artist for years before he really even made like, national news by any means. And it really was overnight. And I think that, I remember listening to that song, 10,000 Hours, and I still, it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And he was like, it's not, what is the one quote? And it's like, it's not about, it's putting your hours in, and like being able to, like, the greatest artists are the ones that could instantly paint, but they were the ones that painted a lot and then they got better. And it's like about being able to hone your craft and be able to strive for something, I think is really important, in order to be good at it. And I know a lot of my gremlins that come up for me now, are revolving around teaching yoga and like being more of like a spiritual teacher in that way. And that it's something that takes time and practice, but it's very scary, because then it's like this imposter syndrome of who am I to even like say I can do this, or as like starting out as like a coach, or kind of stepping into this new career path, even with you, Laura, like to be able to like be okay with being in that learner's mindset and knowing that it's only an opportunity for growth and to get better. And I had a student last night in my yoga class that I've known as a friend. She has done trainings with me and said she's also a teacher, fellow teacher. And I was like, sometimes I forget how long I've been teaching. She's like, yeah, Ferrah, you've been teaching for like 10 years. And I'm like, and I still feel like I'm still a beginner. I still feel like I'm always striving to become better. I have a more authentic voice. I'm able to speak to things a lot more clearly. I'm able to instruct people on how to move their bodies. But so much of it is finding that magic of presence in order to really show up for your students and for yourself in a very compassionate way, in order to find that essence, that sparkle, when you're teaching a class, that I'm always striving for. But that's because in my mind, that's the only good class. That's the only thing that meets the criteria of enough in my mind for it, because I've had such incredible teachers that have been doing this, God knows, for more than 10,000 hours. They've been doing this for 20 years, 20 plus years. And so I think that there's this, and it just doesn't have to be within a hobby or within, a career, but I think that it could even be within a relationship, 10,000 hours of dating, I hope I don't have to do 10,000 hours of dating in order to be any good at it. But I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm just thinking of like, I think it's easy to beat ourselves up about things because we aren't perfect. We're not the version, this perfect, like this kind of almost version of ourselves that we've placed on a pedestal. And then like, but why do we need to be? And like, will we ever be? And is it okay if we're not?
Yeah, it doesn't feel okay to not be, but I think as we get older, that's kind of the beautiful part of that, is that we realize that just our experiences are what bring much more value, and play and discovery, and not having to be perfect is much more fun and beneficial to others too. So
Yeah.
we got to defeat these gremlins.
Yeah. Well, and we started this podcast as a hope to be able to say, like, we haven't figured it all out and we are struggling and we are stumbling, but we're trying our damnedest to be able to live a life of full authenticity and to be able to be in our truths and all that we do, even if it's not perfect, showing up as we are. And I think these gremlins come up and tell us that if you're not this, then you're not anything. And I know, as you guys are all journaling out there about your own gremlins, and we're just talking here, it's easy to believe the gremlins. And I think because there's sometimes a hint of truth in all of them too, that there is these comparisons of, or judgments that we place on ourselves. And I think that that's okay. And that happens. But can we shine light on them so that we, instead of falling into this belief that we will never be enough, that we're stepping forward, we're just putting one foot in front of the other, and that we're striving and we're working and we're growing. And isn't that all we can really do?
I'd like to use even this podcast as a great example of kind of overcoming gremlins, because I think you and we both want to do podcasts. We have really great podcast role models and other shows that we really look up to. And we thought let's just dive in and let's do this. And this commitment to be here for each other and to do the work of, recording episodes. But I think it'd be so easy to look at the stats and look at the followers and look at the impact and be like, well, clearly this is a waste of time. There's not enough. But I don't think either of us have let that gremlin come in and interfere with the fact that, this is enjoyable. It's great experience for us. And if one person gets to hear it and learn something and explores with us, then that's enough, so we're not going to make number one on Apple's podcast charts. But if that was the intention, like, we are beginners. And I think we both approached this with that mindset of like, we're going to figure it out and it's going to be what it is. And we're going to have some great conversations along the way. And that gets to be it.
Well, and giving ourselves the opportunity to be learners, to be able to be beginners again, and to open it up for conversation while we are in the pursuit of that, and giving ourselves a little bit of grace in the meantime, and just running with it and learning from it, knowing like expectations or resentments waiting to happen. So like I kind of came into this without any expectations. I was like, let's make a podcast, but like I have no expectations of what that is. And I know that like my best yoga classes are the ones where I'm like, I have no expectation. Like I have an idea framework of what I'm working with. I have a foundation that I'm stemming from, but I don't, from there, like, can I almost be open to the magic of what is, so that I can be inspired. So I can, instead of logically applying every single step in inserting that, can I allow there to be some creativity that comes from it? Because I think that those are those moments of brilliance that really make something special and unique, and our unique expression. And I think that also applies into our lives. Like, instead of us feeling like we have to stay on a certain path of, for me, it was very much like I went to college, and then I was, high school, and then I went to college. I start my career. I get, I'm in a serious relationship, and I have a partnership. I get married. I have kids, and happily ever after. And obviously, whoosh, that got hijacked out of my life. I was on that path for so long. And then when I chose consciously and deliberately to, venture off, it was really scary, because then I had nothing to compare it to. I had no path that I felt like I was on anymore, and I was blazing my own trail. And I think doing that in any capacity can be terrifying. And but then it's also exhilarating at the same time, because then we're able to create this life that is truly stems from our hearts, instead of this expectation of what everyone else has already done before us. So, Laura, now we'll encourage all of you guys. My nose is sweating, that's why I keep fixing my glasses. No one, you guys probably can't see this, but I just keep fixing my glasses. It's driving me nuts. But my sweaty nose is one of my gremlins now. Actually, it used to be. I used to be really embarrassed about it. Now I could care less. Bella also has a sweaty nose, so I'm going to encourage her to love her sweaty nose. We are going to talk about our gremlins. So we wrote down what are 5 to 10 phrases that you continuously loop within your mind, subconsciously or unconsciously, or subconsciously or consciously. And these might be similar or even the same as some of the other things that you've written down. But I think really speaking to and, writing up those uncomfortable phrases or beliefs that we might be circulating that probably make a huge impact on how we show up and what we're doing and what we're pursuing, but that we don't even notice, because they might have been around for quite a while. They may have set up shop and have been squatting in your home for years of your mind, and it's time to kick them out.
I just want to reiterate for those following along at home. So our prompts that got us to here, just to circle back, that we have kind of a consistent flow. So we talked about what is something I'm beating myself up about. We talked about comparison. So what am I comparing myself to, or who am I comparing myself to? How am I judging myself? And then that's led us to look at those items and pick our 5 to 10
Yeah.
phrases, which are our gremlins.
Laura.
Muddy waters, Ferrah. Why don't we alternate phrase for phrase? Let's just
Ooh, okay.
people with all our gremlins here. So I'm
I
gonna
know.
so Ferrah, you're a piece of shit.
So before this, just to clarify, we did a exercise where Laura talked to me as a gremlin, and then I was Laura, and we had a conversation. It was a heated debate. No, I'm sorry. But that could be a way for you to be able to really speak to these, and to be able to really sit down. Like, one of my teachers, Sylvia, used to say, like, letting in the shitty feelings, the fears, and inviting them over for dinner, and having a full-on conversation with them, having a meal, 5 courses if you'd like, and then kicking them the hell out. And so we had a little bit of a conversation, and then we, ended in a compassionate manner. But that we can do that with love. But then I think sometimes if we don't talk to them, if we don't speak to them, they're still silently in the background if we like them or not. So one of mine gremlins is that I spoke to this already, is I am unworthy of love and respect. That could be I am unworthy. Actually, one of the specific ones I wrote was, I am unworthy of love. I'm worthless. And then I kind of merged that with, I don't deserve a healthy and committed relationship. What's one for you, Laura?
Yours are a lot longer than mine.
That's okay.
You don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Another one of mine is, I am a failure. And life, just like across the board.
You are incompetent.
I am damaged goods.
You are disgusting.
I will never get married again.
I share this one with you. You are not worthy of love.
No one understands me, and they never will.
You are weak.
And we could probably continue this on, because I think we both have our gremlins.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we were trying to be vulnerable and also encourage all of you guys to be able to also really dig deep. Like, what are those thoughts that come up? And I think we can both agree, this is why we say there's this yuck factor, is because I think saying them out loud, especially, it feels gross. It's like, I journaled about it afterwards. It was like, and you can journal about this for yourself as well. It's like, what do I think of these thoughts? What comes up for me when I look back at these phrases that I've written about myself, which I would never in my wildest dreams ever say to anybody else, but that I am actively and knowingly say them to myself. And it's I know that there's truth to them. I know that they come up. I know that I hear them. I know they're there. As much as I try to shush them and tell them to be quiet, or I swat them away, they're around. And I think they are affecting me and how I'm showing up in the world, and how I'm, presenting myself, and how I, maybe those insecurities, those moments of doubt, self-doubt that come up when I'm talking to, a new client, or if I'm speaking to a guy, that I'm like, I'm trying, my goal right now is just even trying to make extended eye contact with people, and being okay with that. When I'm interested, I saw a meme about cancers, and it was like, if I'm being friendly to, if I'm talking to you and being really charismatic, I'm just being friendly. if I make you feel weird and uncomfortable, I like you. It's so fucking true. And so it's like being able to be okay with showing interest in someone without the fear of rejection, which is ultimately what it comes down to, like stunting my ability for authentic communication and a connection. Um, how did this come? Like, how did you feel when you were doing this exercise, Laura? Or even how does it feel to look at these phrases that you came up with?
It's almost embarrassing, really, of like, wow,
Mhm.
like like why would you dare talk to yourself that way? And but at the same time, it's embarrassing, some a comparison, really, that you shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good, right? Like it feels but enlightening. I think, as we spoke before we started to prime for this episode, was, it recognizing some of these as motivators for the actions you take in your life. So a
Mhm.
sense of worthlessness, or that I don't matter. I try really hard to ensure that people in my life recognize their strengths and highlight, the beautiful things about them. And, I think largely that's partially because largely, partially, it's
A large person. No, I didn't help. I didn't help. A large portion. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
yeah, of what I need to hear from myself too, or give to
Mm.
myself. And so, it's like, if you give enough to everyone else in these areas that you're, feeling judgment, does that make you worthy? Does that make you okay? And, um, you and I talked about, like, who am I without that thought? And I don't know, it's what career would I have, or who will I be if I don't adamantly have to demonstrate to everybody else how great they are, and I can just be there for myself.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's so much of it too, though, is to give it to ourselves. Like, how can we take the opposite of what these gremlins are and to truly embody them and to feel what it feels like to be like, I am worthy, and to believe it, to goddamn believe it that you are worthy, And like, that's the work, that's what we're striving for. That's where you can really step into your power and into your worth as an individual and into self-love. Once we shine the light on the shadows, we see them, they're always going to be a part of us, but can we accept them,
Mhm.
and use them for motivation for change, or, that's was my teacher used to say, we accept them, we look at them, we use them as a catalyst for change, or we accept them, or, is there purpose? There's a reason why they're coming up for us. And so then, can we be honest with ourselves about how much weight we place on them? And then use it as a tool for us to be able to evolve. Because I know that, why do I feel like I'm not worthy? That's where I have to go. Why do I feel like I'm not worthy? Like, can I have an honest conversation with myself about what that means and why it's showing up for me? And until I get to the root cause of that, I'm probably not going to really ever be able to dissolve that belief, because it's still going to be looping because I haven't gotten down to why I believe it in the first place. And I think figuring out the origin of all of these is an opportunity for self growth. And that's where the true change happens.
So how do we want to step out?
Go ahead.
We were talking about what do we do now? Like, we've filled up our pages with these awful thoughts, and we're becoming more present, more mindful with them. So I know, Farrah, you're a big fan of kind of taking them and reversing them, right? You're doing some journaling about more accolades, more positive affirmations. But you brought up gremlins, and I'm a visual person. So I see
Yeah.
mine snotting and dripping and being gross, and snarling at me with these thoughts. So I like to put all my affirmations and my positives and my favorite things about myself in the form of something to meet that gremlin, which is a unicorn.
Hence the reason why I brought up the unicorn earlier.
Yes. Yeah. So, in cartoon fair and all. So, we have a rainbow mane and a nice long horn, and we're glittery white. And it's full of things like you are funny and you are kind and thoughtful. And that unicorn comes and stomps around and spears that gremlin.
Get out of here.
Yep. Chases it away. So, for me, I could sit in the gremlin stew forever and just sit there, but taking an action step to recognize, and to put a tool into place to fight the gremlin is extremely important to me. I can't just leave it in a journal and let it sit there, because then it exists. And then it's just gremlin stew. So what about you? How do you get out of this, walk away from this exercise with the gremlins?
And that was something that was really important to me, because I can also, I can sit there and just mull over, as I've, been open about, I've struggled with depression for years of my life. And it's because I was letting these gremlins run me, and they were the fear that was just like generating and like just pulsing through my body at all times, and like was just so afraid to be myself, for a long period of time. And I recognized that these were just beliefs. I was making them up. I was the one that was imposing them on myself. And so I think, there's a few, like what I did in this particular exercise was I wrote out all of my gremlins. I really looked at them, saw them, had a conversation with them, and was like, okay, what's true? I might not get married again. Am I okay with that? Am I not? Am I, but then there's ones that like, there's just no truth in. I am worthy. I'm fucking awesome. I am amazing. I am worthy of a committed, loving, fulfilled relationship with someone. If it's a marriage or not, I am worthy of a partnership that fills my soul. I am, and I know I am. And so it was good though to see it, because it was like they are loops that are going on in my head. So I had to talk about them. I had to address them. But then being able to identify ones that I can kind of easily swat away, those ones that are kind of like I can dismiss and be like, psh, like that was just a week. That was just a bad moment for myself. Like I can come back through it. But then there's other ones where maybe there is a little bit of truth to it. So how am I going to address them and approach them when they come up in the future and in passing, or when, just in life, when I don't have my journal out and I'm listening to a podcast about this, and so, cognitive behavioral therapy wise is, when a trigger occurs, you replace it with a habit that you want to incorporate into your life. And so, when this limiting belief comes up for me, how can I counter it? How can I do a more, supportive, loving, compassionate thought process? And that's for me what I come up with. So it's like, if that thought comes in my head, it's like I literally will stop myself in my tracks and be like, no, I am worthy of love. I am amazing. I'll go through, kind of my affirmations that I'm working on in that moment. Or, if I'm even in the moment, having a conversation with a client and they give me this kind of like look of like, you're full of shit. And I'm like, I am an expert within my field. I am intelligent. I am qualified, and I am worthy of this business. And so then I will kind of have to like reconnect to myself, come back into my power, and then be able to go into the conversation like that, because otherwise it's really easy to shrink. I think that something we haven't spoke on, which I just realized that we probably should, is that what happens when someone outside of us amplifies that belief. What do we do when someone does something that triggers this within us? Because then it's not just us saying it, we have someone externally reinforcing a negative belief about ourselves.
It's so funny when you say that, Ferrah, is that we collect evidence. So Years ago, I got a complaint from I'm in human resources, I'm not in customer service, but a customer complained about me. They wrote a big letter and they sent copies to everybody they could find an address to. So
Oh
to
my God.
myself about, my skill and ability and what I communicated to her for her complaint about an employee. And she sent copies to the corporate office. She sent copies to my boss. She sent copies to anyone she could find on the internet who was associated with my company. And I kept that letter. I kept that letter in my desk drawer for 3 years. Every single other person threw it away. They threw it away, or some called and said, "Hey, I got this letter. I know it's not true. You're awesome." And they threw it away. I kept the fucking letter for 3 years in my desk drawer as evidence and proof of that I'm shitty at my job. So just in case it comes up, I know I have evidence. Any day that I decide that I suck, there's evidence in this drawer confirming that gremlin. And it wasn't until I quit that job and was cleaning out the drawers, it's like, I guess I don't need this anymore because I'm leaving this job. So I don't need to prove to them I'm not going to do it anymore. So I could throw away the letter finally. Is that just insane? It's insane. Why did I keep that letter for 3 years? To just prove to myself, just in case it came up where I felt too comfortable or too good, or somebody else wanted to say, "Yeah, you're not good at this. This isn't who you should be." I'd be like, "You're right. I have this letter that also tells me I'm a piece of shit."
Yeah. Well, and it's like, why, you know, it's so much easier to keep that letter than probably the million other letters that you, or notes or messages that you received telling you that you were good, that you were great at what you did. We dismiss those, we throw those away.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, instead, could we compile, I just thought of this. I was like, compiling a list of all of the affirmations you got, the positive affirmations that you received from people around you, reminding you of your worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be within your job or within your life and everything. Because I think we're all that way, and people are often far more likely to complain when something's negative than they are to give you a piece of credit when you do something right. It's almost like the credit, like when you do something right, it's like, oh, they should have done it this way. Versus if you did something wrong, I'm the first to be able to point it out and I'll remind you of it every time. And I think that comes up in relationships a lot too. It's easy for us to think of, what someone does wrong than to remember the things that they're doing right.
That scoreboard.
Yeah, oh yeah. I remember the moment where my relationship shifted was when I finally, and this was because, but we treat others the way we treat ourselves. So, like, are we keeping a scoreboard of all the things that we're doing wrong and then keeping them for everyone else around us? Or can we start keeping a scoreboard for everything that we're doing right, to be able to remind us and reiterate how amazing and how capable and competent and beautiful and fabulous and loved that we are, and it's not encouraged, it's not talked about, no one really does this, and but then, like, how detrimental is it for us to not, I do a journaling exercise every year for my birthday of, like, what are my biggest accomplishments over this past year? What am I proud of myself for doing? What have I done that I didn't think I was going to be able to, as just a reminder, a mental reminder of my worth. And, and I don't necessarily need to have that in accolades that are a material form, but it kind of helps. It definitely makes me feel a little bit better. It reminds me sometimes when I'm feeling down that what I have accomplished, what I have done, and reiterates that I can do more, that I can accomplish whatever I set my mind to. That those gremlins are fucking wrong. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope people got something out of this exercise other than evidence that they should believe they're gremlins, because it's a battle every day.
Yeah. Well, and I think, having the exercise of writing down all of the things that you're proud of yourself, writing down all of the things that qualities that you possess that are incredible. This is powerful shadow work. I've done that exercise too. You write down all the things that you like about yourself, all the qualities that you possess that you're proud of, that you feel like you contribute and that people also value within you. And then you write down all the things that you don't like about yourself, things that you feel like are faults or negative traits. and being able to really see both of them and knowing the duality of every person. Every person has that list. Every person has both lists. Every person has gremlins. You know, like Barack Obama's got some gremlins. I know he does. You know, like he's an incredible human being. He's accomplished a lot, but he's definitely got some gremlins. Like, you know, we all have them. And so the more compassionate and loving we are towards them, then that's when we really get to like merge the two within who we are, and we can be whole. And I think that that's what being whole is. Being whole isn't just only being happy and, you know, perfect. It's being whole is like loving ourselves in the mess, loving ourselves when I'm curled up in a ball underneath my blankets because I don't feel like getting out of bed that day, but knowing that I still like myself and I'm still worthy of success and love and truth and um, celebration, even in those moments.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if you want to write a love letter to yourself, reminding yourself of how incredible you are could be a great counter, or affirmations that counter all of the gremlins that you wrote up. And when you're writing positive affirmations, just know that they are, don't say, I am not unlovable, like the double negative. Do the like the affirming affirmation. Let's put affirmation. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like I am lovable, or if you say I am unworthy, I am worthy of love. I am worthy. Or even like what's another one that I wrote? I am damaged goods. You know, instead of that being like I am a present of love that is like a brand new present. You know. And I think about that with, you know, being divorced, being a mom, like having this baggage that I've perceived on myself of like, no one's ever going to want to be with a divorced woman that has a kid. That's you know, that's really what comes through my head sometimes. Or like, I'm going to get less matches online because I already have this history. I already have all of this. I've already created this life with someone else and it didn't work out. So they're probably going to assume it's not going to work out with me too. But then you recognize that there's millions, 50% of an American population is divorced. And so it's like, that is a truth. And that doesn't make them any less than anybody else. And so, you know, again, going through that, I am deserving of a loving, compassionate partner. I am successful. You know, whatever. What are some positive affirmations that would help counter some of yours, Laura?
Well, the unicorn was digging the like, I am funny, I am able, I am kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's one to counter? I am disgusting. I'm making Laura uncomfortable, you guys. I'm sorry, Laura. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I do think that that's one that more people think than you would believe. And I've heard that one from a lot.
Yeah.
I've done this exercise in multiple like sessions and group kind of like my background's in counseling. So I've definitely done this in multiple capacities. And that one comes up a lot. And so I think addressing that one just would be really useful, because it's like, how do you counter that with something positive?
I don't know.
And that you can believe, like,
Yeah, that's what's like, like, what direction do I want to go there? I mean, it was a broad statement, so.
mhm. So parsing it down, like, is it I am fabulous? Like, is that like believable? I am beautiful. I am sexy. I am gorgeous. Is it physical? Or is there more of an innate internal, like, I am, I think worthy is what I come back to, because disgusting feels like untouchable, you know, in a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, like down in a gutter or something. Yeah.
Hmm. So I'm like shiny and new.
Like a penny.
You know, a bright penny. Or what is there one that you can think of? Sorry, I'm just like throwing them out there, but I don't know if any of them are sticking.
I like the shiny and new. It's cute.
Okay. And this is an exercise that takes time. Don't think you need to come up with all of these while you're listening to this conversation. Take for the audience out there, know that you can, continue to contemplate these concepts. What is coming up for you, and what can you say that you'll actually believe? And I personally write out my affirmations every day. There's a lot of scientific research that supports writing them out 25 times helps affirm them and attract them. We're manifesting, we're creating that within our psyche. And we also then will find evidence to support those affirmations. Our reticular, confibulator? I may have just made this up, but there is something that within our minds that we, I'll look this up, I'll include it in the show notes, that actually then, yeah, I think that is it. It's reticular confibulator. It helps us when we're in our daily life. How you think of, you're thinking about buying a new car. And so then you start noticing whatever new car you're looking at, you start looking for that car. And then you just start noticing the car everywhere. You're like, oh, this is so strange. I never noticed this car before. And now suddenly I see them everywhere. And that's the same, that's true for anything in life. And so when we consciously bring attention and awareness to something, we're going to find evidence to support it. So if we are consciously looking for evidence to support us and that I am shiny and new, I am worthy, I am beautiful, I am enough, then we're going to find evidence to support that in our interactions, in our conversations, in our thoughts, and in the affirmations of our life, and the evidence that we can use to support whatever we want to believe. And changing those grooves within our brains is what growth is about. That's what the work is. It's about changing who we once were, changing once we once believed, and directing it towards something that's supportive and encouraging and supportive of our lives and what we want to be and how we want to show up. So I think writing out your positive affirmations, putting them, like I write them out in my journal. I also used to have them written out and on my mirror. I have them on my fridge now. So I will look at them each day, say them out loud. There's a lot of studies that show looking at the mirror, staring at yourself in the face, repeating them in your mind or even out loud can be even more potent. To be able to repeat those kind of helps, keep us on the right path, repeating them before you go to bed at night. I tend to repeat them before I go to bed at night because there's a lot of studies that show that when whatever we're thinking about right before we go to bed is what then comes into fruition. So having that opportunity to do it there, whatever is impactful, whatever resonates with you, do that. And, or even when consciously, like Laura was talking about, when those thoughts come up in your head, give them a little poke with the unicorn horn and tell them to get the hell out of here, and then that is, again, just incorporating it into those moments. Because I think that that's where growth happens. Growth doesn't happen on one journaling exercise that you do one day and then forget about. Growth happens when you are actually integrating it into your daily life. Hence the reason why I think rituals are so important. And I write affirmations every day, just as a reminder of this, because I need to keep I even have you come to my house and you would see multiple affirmations all over my house that I just see it in artwork, because then I can see it and it can be beautiful at the same time. It just keeps me, it's a good reminder. All right, everybody. Laura, do you feel like we're done? Is there anything else you want to contribute or add to?
No, I think we're good. All this really ties straight back to even the love songs, right? That's why we're dedicating them to ourselves. So what song do you have today?
Speaking of affirmations, this is actually slightly coincidental, but is anything in life coincidental, or is it really just meant to be? Of course, this would be my love song for today's episode is I'm a bad man pajama. Bum, 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 bum. Just as happy as you can be. I actually don't even know if I really have listened to the song forever. It came on the other day And I was just feeling it. I was like, yes, I am a bad mama jamma. I was like, it's a great affirmation. I was like, this is adding to my playlist. And my daughter hopped on board and was singing it. And it was like the cutest thing to see a 3-year-old sing that song. If you haven't, I should record it. It is absolutely adorable. And she was like bouncing her head. She purses her lips. She goes, she like dances like that when she likes the song. I don't know where she got it from. I swear I don't do that. But it was really cute. So that's my song for the week. What about you, Laura?
That's so cute. Ugh. Went with Without You by Parachute. It's a good reminder about living without you, that's not gonna happen. So I could never live this life without you. I could never live without you. Doesn't matter where I go, doesn't matter if I run. We were always gonna get too close. You're always gonna fall in love. So I don't think you can ever outrun yourself.
No.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna have to listen to that song. I don't know if I've heard of it before.
Well, it'll be on our playlist.
Yes. And as one of the many places that you can find us, Spotify, you can listen to all of our episodes on Spotify, as well as our playlist, Wild Women Wednesday. And you can find me on Instagram, Rituals with Ferrah, as well as my website, Rituals with Ferrah. And you can find Laura at
Coach with Laura on Instagram or laurabiddle.com.
if you want to find her direct. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being willing to do this work and doing it with us. And like we said, we're not perfect. We are definitely works in progress, and we are all trying to figure it out as it comes, and hopefully be able to share our experiences as a conduit for all of you to be able to also find the deeper truths that reside within. So thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Bye.